Chapter 246, Seems like we don't need to. The expressions of Parade's players immediately changed. Where did all these hungry wolves come from? Why were there so many of them? The 8 players continued to fight the Fire Witch, but also split some of their attention to observe the incoming players. None of them wore their guild tags. However, aside from large guilds, who else could gather so many players at one spot? They were able to quickly figure out the answer from this. They were those guild members who were chasing Lord Grimm. The other side had an advantage in numbers and all of their guilds were more powerful than their parade. The 8 players immediately felt a wave of depression wash over them. It hadn't been easy being the first group to find the boss, but they had been discovered too quickly. There from Parade, the 100 players that had gathered together began talking with one another. When Parade's name was mentioned, most of them carried a hint of disdain. Whether it was in the alliance or in the game, Parade wasn't considered a strong opponent to them. Ha, this boss. Some were talking with the players next to them, when suddenly, they realized that something wasn't quite right. There was a change in the 100 players there. They quickly began moving into formation and split into 7 groups. 7 groups. 7 guilds. Currently, these 7 guilds were no longer an alliance, but were now opponents. No one gave the orders to do so, but everyone instantly made the decision to leave the party that they were in. Each of the guilds made their own respective parties and kept their distance from the other guilds. They began calculating their opponent's strength as well. Every time they fought over a wild boss, the damage dealt by other players was far greater than the damage the boss would deal. This was an indisputable reality. In the old server, wild bosses were only killed by max-level characters. A level 36 Fire Witch Cashew versus level 70 players wouldn't even be considered a fight. However, even then, there would always be large amounts of casualties. The killers were all players from other guilds. In the Heavenly Domain, those extremely difficult wild bosses were originally created as a challenge for players. In addition to this, there would also be the fights between guilds. In these types of battles, many of the players would even die several times. Even though only max-level players would enter the Heavenly Domain, there were still leveling areas, monsters to gain experience from, and quests for experience too. These places were never empty, either. This was because there were more intense battles in the Heavenly Domain, so there were more deaths and more experience losses. After quickly measuring one another's strength, they found that the 2 guilds that were relatively weaker were unexpectedly Tyrannical Ambition and Herb Garden of the 3 great guilds. These 2 guilds had the fewest number of players. Everyone was turning their heads non-stop, sizing up one another. The chats in each of the guilds were bustling with noise. Should they move out or not? Right now they understood one another's strengths well, but every guild would send out a message to their members asking for help. Help would arrive at different times and the tides could change depending on how much help came. Chen Yahui was thinking a bit differently though. He had a weird feeling. Even though he also wanted to steal the boss, he didn't want to have a fight with these guilds right now. Someone was already thinking of moving out, but Excellent Dynasty's Chen Yahui suddenly said first, everyone, for us to so coincidentally meet a wild boss, it means that the boss will definitely be killed, but if the battle is too fierce, then continuing our future alliance will be a bit difficult, no? What I'm saying is that this time, would it be possible for us to do things more peacefully? We'll only attack the boss and, as according to the system, whichever side does the most damage, will get the boss. Quote. This wasn't the first time such an event had occurred in the history of the game. In the past, there were successes, but there were also failures. However, the proposal that Chen Yahui put out this time was sincere. Under their special alliance, he truly didn't want the 7 guilds to fight with one another. The other guilds hadn't yet responded, when Parade's 8 players took the initiative. They weren't stupid. They knew that the Fire Witch wouldn't fall under their hands, so why bother fighting her? The obvious choice was to run. They no longer cared if the boss lived or died. The 8 players decided quickly and their movements were swift. They turned around and directly fled. If they continued running like this, they would quickly leave the battle, but the boss would still chase after them initially. How could these 100 players let the boss just leave? The 100 players immediately surrounded her. The battle began and all sorts of attacks flew towards the Fire Witch. but the boss only had so much space around her and not every hit would successfully connect. As a result, the first thing that had to be done when stealing a boss was to first fight for a good position. Who didn't know of this? The melee classes rushed towards the Fire Witch. The long-range classes found advantageous DPS positions and the support classes tried their hardest to stick with their allies to provide support. In this instant, the Fire Witch was fully surrounded. Even though no one had clearly accepted Chen Yuhui's suggestion, from the looks of it, it seemed like everyone had tacitly agreed to it. When they were fighting for positioning, none of them fought with each other. However, in the end, they had rushed too much. Their positionings were all over the place and it was still a bit of a mess. Whichever guild's elementalist, can you please stop using Blizzard? Some of the melee classes were shouting. Clearly, if an elementalist used Blizzard, other players would be caught up in it as well. Who fired that anti-tank missile? Someone else cursed. AoE spells couldn't be controlled, but a gunner's firing could be. There were countless mistakes and countless shouts. The majority of the players were grouped around the Fire Witch. However, no matter how hard Chen Yuhui tried to organize them, his voice couldn't be heard amidst the commotion. The Fire Witch's two arms suddenly opened and a fiery light glowed around her. Meteor shower, hurry and interrupt her, someone hastily shouted. Let me in. When the Fire Witch was in her super armor state, only grabs could interrupt her. But the grapplers were currently stuck on the outside of the circle. A battle mage quickly stabbed forward, piercing the Fire Witch's waist. The light was still there, but the Fire Witch was thrown up with a circle swing. The meteor shower was interrupted, but no one was content. No, countless players cursed. When the battle mage threw the Fire Witch, the battle mage threw the boss into the crowd of players. Even worse, he had brought the Fire Witch into a different position. The players, who had originally been surrounding the Fire Witch, were suddenly on the sidelines. One of the players, who was flung to the sidelines, used a sword draw in rage and slashed at the battle mage's back. D*MNIT. The battle mage stumbled and then returned with a dragon tooth, which connected with a different player. You noob. The person who was stabbed was a striker, who attacked back with a collapsing fist, sending the battle mage flying. While flying, the battle mage unfortunately crashed into a line of players. Curses resounded throughout the forest. The battlefield was already uncontrollable. Chen Yuhui wanted to completely start over, but he had also been one of the players who was hit and was on the ground eating mud. All sorts of skills whistled around. Players who hadn't been able to hit the boss were all attacking now. Aside from their own guild members, everyone was an enemy. Stop. Everyone, stop. Stay calm, Chen Yuhui shouted. As soon as he stood up, someone dropped down from the sky and smooshed him back down to the ground. I'm telling you all to stop. Chen Yuhui's mood was terrible. He was lying on the ground telling the leaders from the other guilds. That one. Excellent Dynasty's guild leader. Kill him first, Chen Yuhui heard from somewhere and immediately felt hopeless. Lord Grimm, who had been watching from the sides, had a grenade ready in his hands long ago. Looks like I won't need to, Yishu said, while having his Lord Grimm cancel the grenade. No wonder we went to Fire Forest, Su Mucheng mumbled to herself. Chapter 247, Keyboard and Mouse. The chaos ensued. The 7 big guilds, that had originally been chasing after Lord Grimm, were only focused on the Fire Witch Cashew now. The players that were near the boss were ferociously attacking the boss, while the players behind them were ferociously fighting for a good spot. None of them had guild tags on them, so no one knew which guild the players closest to them were. As a result, no one bothered to check and just attacked whoever. Stealing bosses was a frequent occurrence, but it was rare for it to be as chaotic as it currently was. It had come so suddenly, but no one had expected things to turn out this way. It wasn't as if these guilds didn't want to stabilize the situation, but rather it was just that the situation had already gone out of control. If you didn't attack others, someone else would attack you. Not a single person dared to back down and stop attacking. Strategy? Leading? None of these could be used. The players were only relying on their instincts. People who wanted to lead, like Chen Yuhui, had already been killed or knocked out on the ground, unable to get up. Currently, whoever talked the most or whoever instigated things the most would become everyone's primary target. In order to catch the bandits, one has to first catch the bandits' ringleaders. The players there still held this sort of common sense. No one could predict the outcome of this battle. Even Yi Shu couldn't. In such a chaotic battle, even if a god were thrown in there, he'd still be put to the test. However, as players continuously fell, the number of players decreased, making the battle more and more clear. Those who were still alive probably weren't extremely skilled. Most of them were either lucky or kept a low profile. The enthusiastic ones, who went all out, died quite explosively. With fewer of these people in the fight, the field calmed down a bit. With a calmer scene, the distribution of the field could be seen more clearly. The members from the 7 guilds had separated from each other. At the same time, the boss Fire Witch Cashu's movements could be seen more clearly as well. Cashew waved her magic staff and a giant fireball smashed towards a player. This fireball could be considered a disaster. Although, this was not in the sense of how much damage it did, it pointed to which group the Fire Witch was aggroed onto. Whichever group had the highest aggro would become the boss's first target, and how could this group not be the other guild's targets? A disaster was imminent. One of the groups was instantly eliminated. Yi Shu's group, which was on the sidelines watching, couldn't even tell which guild's troops had died. The fight that ensued was no longer as chaotic and returned to the guild's usual tempo. They were no longer going all out attacking the boss, but rather, they were whittling her health down slowly. After many years of doing this, the guilds had become careful and patient. In this type of situation, the number of players would gradually increase instead of decrease. The backup from the big guilds would continue to arrive and the guild leaders would try to outwit each other. "We should go," Yi Shu whispered. What? Steamed Bun Invasion wasn't sure what he meant. "Let them kill," Yi Shu said. He had not planned on taking the boss for himself because after the complete chaos in the beginning, the guilds would try to reduce their casualties and the battle would eventually stabilize itself. Quote, "We're not going to kill." The innocent Steamed Bun Invasion had wanted to massacre all of them, which would then leave them with the boss. "They have too many people. We can't kill," Yi Shu said. Steamed Bun Invasion looked around and saw that there really were a lot of people. Right now, they were all circling around the boss. The scene in his mind, where everyone else was lying on the ground dead, didn't seem too realistic. "It'd be better to use this time to do our own business," Yi Shu said. As a result, the 3 left Fire Forest. They didn't know how the battle would develop, but the result would eventually be announced. Sure enough, the 3 had temporarily been forgotten. When they arrived at Line Canyon, there weren't even any guards watching over the entrances. It was already 11. Yi Shu temporarily logged out of the game to start his shift. At this moment, Chen Guo and Tang Ru finally returned with a bunch of shopping bags. "Come here and help us," Chen Guo called for Yi Shu. Yi Shu hastily went over to help them. He looked at the items stacked up in Chen Guo's arms and his eyes brightened. "Whoa, Blue Classic." "Oh, you know what's what," Chen Guo said. Yi Shu smiled. Blue Classic was a type of professional gaming keyboard. It was the keyboard Yi Shu had commonly used in the past. The keyboard and mouse that Chen Guo provided in the internet cafe weren't bad, but when compared to the Blue Classic, they couldn't be compared. "Seeing that you already know what's good, I'll give you one." Chen Guo indicated Yi Shu to take one of the keyboards between her arms. "So nice." Yi Shu saw that the 2 had brought a total of 3 keyboards back. "There was a discount if you bought 3, so it was convenient to get one for you too," Chen Guo said. "So it was like that." Yi Shu took the keyboard. "There's a mouse too." Chen Guo took out a box from her bag and handed it to Yi Shu. "Whoa, this. What is it?" "I'm not too used to this one," Yi Shu said. "What do you mean you're not too used to it?" "It's too heavy. Using it is too tiring." The mouse Chen Guo had bought for him was called Heavy Metal. It was big enough, heavy enough, and very sensitive. It was a type of mouse that many players liked. "How lazy can you be?" Chen Guo said. "Thank you, though." Yi Shu still took the mouse. "Then what mouse are you used to using?" Chen Guo asked. 7th edition light wind, Yishu said. That one. Isn't that one meant for girls? Chen Guo also knew of the model. It was just like she had said, that mouse was small and delicate, lightweight and portable. It really was something that girls preferred. As long as it suits you, there's no difference between genders. And at this moment, Chen Guo took out another mouse. It just so happened to be a 7th edition light wind. Wow. What a coincidence. Let me switch with you. Yishu took the heavy metal mouse and handed it over. Get lost. Who's going to switch with you? This one suits you more. Yishu recommended the heavy metal mouse to Chen Guo. For players like you, whose mechanics aren't that good, this type of heavy mouse will help you increase your accuracy. You just keep on making things up. Chen Guo didn't believe him. If you don't believe me, you can just try it yourself. Yishu tried putting the heavy metal into Chen Guo's hands again. Can I just plug the keyboard into the computer on the front desk? Yishu waved the blue classic keyboard in his hands. Go ahead, Chen Guo approved. Then what about you? Yishu switched the keyboards and turned around to ask Chen Guo. That's a good question, Chen Guo said. Even though there were a lot of computers in the internet cafe, they didn't have any computer specifically for them. Switching their mouse and keyboards every time was too troublesome. Think about it, Yishu had finished plugging in his blue classic. He touched the surface and instantly felt a wave of familiarity. He had used this model for a good 5 years. I'll think about it later. First, let's find a spot to try it out on. Chen Guo was impatient and found a computer to sit at. Tang Ru had a lot more to be praised about. She knew to first put away the bags they had just brought in. She wasn't like Chen Guo, who just threw her bags onto the cafe's counter. When the two girls went shopping, of course they hadn't only bought keyboards and mice, but also they had bought several bags of clothes and makeup. She had to make 2 trips before she managed to completely put everything into the second-floor room. Yishu had helped the customers who came and left during this time. Once Chen Guo installed the keyboards, she immediately began using one of them. She immediately entered the game and quickly went to the arena, feeling that she would be invincible with her new epic keyboard and mouse. However, she was crushed in her first match and then wrecked even harder in the second match. Chen Guo sat dumbly at her computer as if she had been splashed with ice-cold water. I say, did you think that switching to a better keyboard and mouse would suddenly make you a lot better? Yishu saw this while finding change for a customer. He continued speaking, your own skill is the most important point. If you want to improve, switching your keyboard and mouse won't even be as useful as playing with that whack-a-mole I gave you. Who are you talking to? A customer wasn't sure. To that noob over there. Chapter 248, Guidance. Who's the noob? Chen Guo yelled impolitely and slammed the keyboard to go for another match. So heartless. You're going to hit it if it can't help you, Yishu mumbled to himself. Angry and anxious, Chen Guo lost for a 3rd time. She felt like pushing the table away and leaving, but she didn't want to be taunted by Yishu again, so she clenched her teeth and went in for round 4. Tang Ru finished carrying the bags over to her room. After tidying up a bit, she came down with her new keyboard and mouse. She also wanted to try them out, when she saw Chen Guo furiously tapping on her keyboard. What's wrong? Tang Ru was astonished. In yesterday night's game, Team Excellent Era had swept their opponents away and once again won almost every round. Chen Guo's mood today had been extremely good. Why'd she suddenly get so heated up after only such a short while? She lost 6 times in a row, Yishu said. Mind your own business. If you don't handle the bills correctly, I'll nail your head to the wall, Chen Guo roared. You got her angry again. Tang Ru was helpless and more or less figured out the root of Chen Guo's anger. Today, she had just heard Chen Guo say how amazing she'd be with a new high-end keyboard and mouse. But when she returned, she was losing like this. She silently walked to Chen Guo's side and watched her play as she installed her new keyboard and mouse. Tang Ru had the mechanics down now, but her observational skills still weren't too great. She could only tell that, judging from the differences between their 2 health bars, Chen Guo was undoubtedly going to lose. Calm down. What are you so impatient for? Yishu's voice drifted by again. Huh? Why's this guy so noisy? Should we go find somewhere more quiet? Chen Guo said to Tang Ru. I thought you liked the noise. No, Tang Ru laughed. If they really wanted to go somewhere quiet, then they'd just go to the VIP rooms on the second floor. But as the internet cafe's owner, Chen Guo wanted to stay on the first floor because she liked the atmosphere around here. She had grown up in this type of environment her entire life. Chen Guo kept on tapping her keyboard and mouse as if she were nailing Yishu's head to the wall. This time, her playing went pretty well and the tides seemed to have turned. Tang Ru was currently logging into the game, when she suddenly heard Chen Guo say, "Whoa." She turned her head and looked. Chen Guo's chasing haze had been launched into the air and was currently being trampled on. Just use an aerial fire to get out, Yishu said. I don't need you to say it. Chen Guo began firing. However, her angle was messed up and she fired up into the air. The recoil knocked her down and she crashed into the ground. Tisk tisk, you went a bit overboard. No, Yishu said. Hey, how can you see from so far away? Chen Guo decided that she'd stop playing. She got up furiously and stomped over to find Yishu. At this time, Yishu didn't have any customers and was clear. He laughed, you can't be an expert without good eyes. If you're an expert, then teach me something. You're always making stupid, sarcastic remarks. How'd I not teach you? I told you to not randomly hit your keyboard. I told you to stay calm. I told you to play slower, but you just had to ignore it and yell at me. I told you to use an aerial fire to get out, but you shot it towards the sky. I can't make a mistake, Chen Guo interrupted. But you can avoid this kind of mistake. Look, I had warned you that the heavy metal suits you, but you just had to use the 7th edition light wind. It's too light for you, Yishu said. Chen Guo couldn't say anything. Had Yishu really been helping me the entire time? But he still makes me too angry. Chen Guo felt like that kicking him once or twice would make her feel calmer and make her play better. Switch to a heavy metal and try it out. Yishu handed her the heavy metal mouse. Chen Guo stared in doubt at this extremely stupid and heavy mouse and hesitated on whether she should take it or not. You might not be used to it in the beginning, but don't be impatient and slowly try it out. Also, your recent opponents might be better than normal, Yishu said. Why? You're famous. Everyone wants to challenge you. Chen Guo immediately understood and almost died from anger, and that's your fault. I won't let you borrow my account next time. After Yishu borrowed her account to instantly kill off Poplar Beach, Chasing Haze's name became extremely famous. Outsiders saw it as the main account of a great expert and went over to admire her. Players from all over came to pull her in, ask to be students, challenge her, or try to make friends with her. Chen Guo felt extremely sad. She didn't feel famous at all. That guy just slapped his butt and ran while leaving her with this mess. How annoying. I was a bit inconsiderate at that time and I feel like I should have played a bit more modestly, so you wouldn't be so troubled, Yishu said. It wasn't too much trouble. Chen Guo had a hard time accepting Yishu's apology. But if you keep playing like this in the arena, then everyone will know the truth, right? Yishu continued. Go die. Chen Guo grabbed the heavy metal mouse and left. She had been too naive to think that he had any sort of confession to make. I'll continue teaching you from afar, Yishu yelled from behind Chen Guo. Tang Ru had been laughing on the side the entire time. So talkative. Chen Guo switched mice. She took the heavy metal and moved it twice. It was very heavy and would take some time to get used to. Even so, she started a new match. This time, she was more calm. Now that she was more focused, Chen Guo wasn't so bad. She wasn't top tier by any means, but she was at least at the skill level of 7 Fields' group. Plus, she had had this account for several years, so her equips were quite good, giving her the advantage in most cases. During the match, Chen Guo discovered the heavy metal mouse's advantages. Compared to the 7th edition light wind, the heavy mouse was much easier to control. It was a bit heavy, but saying that moving the mouse was too tiring was clearly an exaggeration. Is that guy lying or telling the truth? Chen Guo muttered. She was already quite satisfied with this mouse. The more she used it, the better her playing flowed. She finally won this round. HMPH, let's see what you have to say now. Chen Guo was delighted. She turned her head to look at the front desk and immediately turned furious. She had finally won a match, but that guy wasn't there. He was busy playing on his own computer. Chen Guo was sad. She couldn't just grab him and tell him to watch. She angrily entered to play another match. She glanced at Tang Ru's screen and saw that she was in the game, too. What are you guys doing? Chen Guo asked Tang Ru. We played all day yesterday and our equipment's running out of durability. I'm going to get mine fixed, Tang Ru said. You're still being chased? I guess so. Yi Shu told me to be careful. Where is he? Chen Guo asked. He just got online. We'll be dungeoning in a bit, Tang Ru said. Oh, Chen Guo replied and continued playing in the arena. Yi Shu had gone offline for about half an hour. After coming back online, Cleansing Mist and Steamed Bun Invasion were no longer by his side. It still wasn't convenient for them to stay in one place for too long. Have they killed the Fire Witch yet? Yi Shu sent a message to Su Mucheng. No news yet, Su Mucheng replied. So slow, Yi Shu sighed. We'll dungeon and then you can go rest early. Everyone's here. Su Mucheng saw that Tang Ru's Soft Mist and Chao Yifan's 1-inch Ash were on. They need to fix their equipment, Yi Shu replied. I hope they'll be able to finish doing that before they kill the boss and return, Su Mucheng said. Fire Forest isn't that far, but a lot of people will be coming from Kanji City after dying, Yi Shu said. The three killed a few nearby monsters in Line Canyon while they waited for Tang Ru and Chao Yifan to come. Finally, after a long time, a system announcement popped up. Fire Forest's Fire Witch Cashew had been killed by tyrannical ambition. Oh, not bad, Yi Shu sent to Cold Knight. What did it drop? What? Why should you care? Cold Knight replied. Depending on your pace, I want to give you a new updated list for the bet. Hell no, Cold Knight refused. Chapter 249, Leave It to Nature. It wasn't easy for tyrannical ambition to take down the Fire Witch. None of the other guilds would let up and they were all afraid of others taking the prize away. If not for the other guilds, killing off the Fire Witch would have been easy. In the beginning, no one had a huge advantage. Tyrannical ambition was actually on the worse end. However, when backup arrived, tyrannical ambition's superiority emerged. Zhang Yu's group were upper tier in mechanics and had vast amounts of experience. In comparison to non-pro players, they were the elite of the elites. Don't look at how they were nothing in Lord Grimm's eyes. Against normal players, the 5 players' confidence reignited. After a long and bitter battle, tyrannical ambition relied on these 5 to come out victorious. For tyrannical ambition, which had endured so much for the past few days, this victory could have made them feel much better. But right as they were celebrating, Lord Grimm shamelessly approached them. Change the list? Did he believe that they killed the boss for him? Cold Knight was very unhappy. Absolutely not, Cold Knight hated how he wasn't sharp enough. Really? Then, that's too bad, Lord Grimm casually replied and then went silent. Cold Knight scratched the walls. What was with this guy's train of thought? He couldn't understand him. After killing the boss, the guild took a list of their casualties. They checked to see which opponents had taken them down and recorded their names. Many years of fighting with one another had made the guilds act less impulsively and more rationally. In situations where they had the absolute advantage, they absolutely wouldn't negotiate with you. However, in situations where their strengths were equal, they would find ways to get revenge in the future. Day after day, their list of enemies to enemies was in a mess. Today, I'll kill your people. Tomorrow, your people will kill my people. The cycle will never end. Right now, the guilds were calm, or at least, they appeared calm on the outside. For example, Samsara's 10th server guild leader, Lonely Drink, went on to congratulate Cold Knight, who replied with his own show of respect. In reality, the two had just finished their casualties list and many of their players had died by the other side's hands. This was the old players' way of conducting business. Only new players would become hostile and begin enacting revenge at this moment. Chen Yahui had rushed back after dying. They hadn't gotten the boss and were feeling very gloomy right now. However, after seeing that the atmosphere wasn't too bad, he immediately reminded them of Lord Grimm. As a result, the other guilds gathered up again like nothing had happened and began discussing how they would conduct the movement. Where's Lord Grimm right now? He's gone again. The dungeons have reset. Maybe he went to Line Canyon to dungeon? How about this? The delighted Cold Knight made a suggestion. Always chasing Lord Grimm with so many people is too wasteful of our resources. Why don't we all just go and do our own thing for now? As soon as any one of us find him, we'll send each other messages and we'll gather again. Cold Knight was trying to work half-heartedly. Their pro team was about to come out. How were they unable to take down Lord Grimm? This was why he was too lazy to participate. He just wanted to find a reason to leave. As for the other guilds, Cold Knight's suggestion was pleasant to hear. Whether it was guarding the Line Canyon entrances or guarding the city entrances, it was incredibly tiring. It wasn't fun to play like this. They had originally thought that stalling Lord Grimm would have been a small matter. Who would have imagined that, even with so many people after him, there would be such minuscule results to show for it? Their own progress had taken a hit. It had been an unsuccessful plan and it wasn't worth continuing. When Cold Knight's suggestion came out, the crowd all applauded and immediately showed their support. However, there were two voices of opposition. One was Chen Yahui. He had other motives. How could he let the guilds reduce the amount of resources they were putting into this? The other was, unexpectedly, Herb Garden's Plantago Seed. Herb Garden's attitude had been unorganized and easygoing the entire time. Chen Yahui felt that his current actions were a bit suspicious. Seeing Herb Garden's attitude, it was very possible that Herb Garden was thinking the same thing he was. They hoped that Lord Grimm would make both sides suffer. However, from this point of view, how could they know that both sides would suffer? This meant that Herb Garden must know that Lord Grimm was the god-level player, Yi Chu. How could he have known this? Chen Yahui wasn't sure. Everyone, Lord Grimm is our biggest enemy right now. Putting in our resources to fight him is just a temporary movement. After all this, our development in the 10th server will go unobstructed. Plantago Seed was trying to persuade the people. Haha, you're correct, brother. We're not backing out. We're only slightly changing our means of doing things. Right now, we're placing too much importance on Lord Grimm. He's been leading us by the nose. Lord Grimm exposed himself just recently, but we still weren't able to catch him. The guards at the entrance have found him, but what was the use of that? So from the looks of it, we should just let nature take its course for now. With our eyes everywhere, we just need to gather together from time to time to give some trouble to Lord Grimm. It'll be enough to stop him from going to places with too many players and he'll have to duck and hide every time he hunts down monsters, does quests, or goes dungeoning. Most of his time will be wasted from doing this. The time will add up and our goal will have been reached. Quote, the one who spoke with confidence was Blossom Valley's guild leader, Backlight Bomb, who perfectly supplemented Cold Knight's random excuse. The ones who had been supporting Cold Knight were doing so mostly because they wanted to escape as well. But after Backlight Bomb made such an assuring argument, many players nodded their heads and reaffirmed their positions. Sounds good. Even Lonely Drink nodded his head. These guild leaders weren't only doing this to have fun. Most of them had to consider what was good for their guild's interests. This was work and their performance was important. And thus, Cold Knight and Plantago Seed had no way of persuading the masses. They looked at one another and had no other choice but to oblige. In-game, their characters couldn't really make direct eye contact, but the two were able to read each other's attitudes. Chen Yahui couldn't figure out how Plantago Seed had gotten knowledge of Lord Grimm's identity, but Plantago Seed didn't feel anything out of the ordinary from Chen Yahui. Yi Chu was from Excellent Era. How could Excellent Dynasty be unaware? After Yi Chu retired, no one knew where he went to. Club Excellent Era also said they didn't know. Ordinarily, it should have been very easy for a god like Yi Chu to find game-related work after retiring. Had Yi Chu specially run to the game to make trouble and prepare to lead Excellent Dynasty? Plantago Seed had made many guesses after knowing Lord Grimm's identity. He thought that this was the most likely case. Okay, then from now on, we'll be a bit more natural with carrying out our measures against Lord Grimm. Backlight Bomb continued, it's very likely that Lord Grimm is in Line Canyon right now and a lot of us will be heading to Dungeon 2, so we'll go see if we can find Lord Grimm's whereabouts. If we find him, then we'll immediately report it. That's the way it should be, someone replied. Chapter 250, the situation isn't clear. The guilds decided on this plan and then dispersed. The majority of them headed towards Line Canyon. At Line Canyon, Yishu easily found Tangru and Chao Yifan and proceeded to dungeon as well. The players from those 7 guilds wanted to bump into Yishu's group, but the only time that would happen was during the moment they exited and re-entered the dungeon. Some luck would be needed. The guilds now had a new plan. They only needed to watch out for any signs of Lord Grimm. The night passed by gently and there wasn't much pressure on them. As for Yishu's side, they didn't know that their opponents' plans had changed. They continued with their careful and roundabout routes. Tang Ru hoped that they would meet a few players that they could kill, but she was left disappointed that night. Every time they left the dungeon, nothing ever happened, and even after going around in a circle to switch entrances, nothing happened and they easily re-entered the dungeon. Backlight Bomb's prediction had been correct. Under this type of situation, as long as they kept up the pressure on Yishu, Yishu would waste time taking detours. The amount of time would add up and their leveling speed would slow down. After finishing their 3 runs, they had spent around an hour more than they normally would have spent. Su Mucheng and Chao Yifan logged off, while Yishu, Tang Ru, and Steam Bun Invasion continued on with their detours. No one followed them and no bosses appeared. After learning about the advantages of the heavy metal mouse, the number of matches Chen Guo won grew higher and higher. She was currently violating her rules of work and rest and refused to leave the computer. The only thing that made her unhappy was the fact that there would sometimes be people who would ask her for advice because they thought she was that great expert from before. It was getting late and Chen Guo wasn't able to continue. She had yawned countless times and after almost falling asleep in one match, she finally decided to stop and go to sleep. She put away her new keyboard and mouse and temporarily stowed them away at the front desk. Since your advice wasn't bad, I'll gift you this mouse. After stowing them away, she handed her extra 7th edition Light Wind to Yishu. She waved good night a few times and then went over to her room to sleep. What are we going to do now? Yishu heard Tangru ask. Level up. Let's hurry and level up. That's the most effective way of fighting back against these guilds, Yishu said. Fighting back and forth wasn't very exciting for Yishu's group and didn't benefit them in any way. On the contrary, these types of fights wasted a lot of their time. He didn't want to fall for such a mistake. This reasoning was similar to what Lu Hao had realized after wasting his time fighting with Yishu. Yishu wouldn't be troubled so easily. After teaching the big guilds a lesson, he wouldn't continue to tangle with them. Then are we going to Desolate Land? Tang Ru asked. In terms of efficiency, running dungeons was much faster than killing monsters in leveling areas. However, Desolate Land couldn't compare to Line Canyon. There would be a lot of players over there, so it wouldn't be convenient to go there right now. In the end, the 3 left Line Canyon and ran to Fire Forest. The day passed by like this. Yishu gradually began to realize that the guilds had changed their strategy. They had suffered sneak attacks 3 times, but it looked like the attack had been made on the spot. 2 of them had been towards Lord Grimm, which Yishu easily escaped from, while the other attack was against Steam Bun Invasion, in which they succeeded and sent Steam Bun Invasion back to the city. Fortunately, they had changed their respawn points to Bull's Town. If not, then it would have been troublesome to leave Kanji City again. Hearing of the news, Yishu could only comfort Steam Bun Invasion. Steam Bun Invasion said that he had been through a lot worse. Dying once or twice was just a small matter and not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning? Then who had been the one to immediately report his death when he came online? That's what I was worried about. Yishu didn't say it, but he silently sighed in his heart. The other side was no longer intent on chasing them down forever, but they would continue to put pressure on them. Yishu had no way of knowing when the other side would suddenly surround and kill them, so their only choice was to stay on the safer side. At this moment, the other side was safely leveling up, but Yi Shu's group didn't have that sort of luxury. The other guilds could put in 20% of the effort into chasing them, but Yi Shu had to stay on alert 100% of the time. If not, then they'd end up like steamed bun invasion and be killed off. What do you think of killing them every time we see one of them? Steamed bun invasion suggested. If we got experience from killing them, then I'd have strongly recommended it already, Yi Shu replied. We should set another record to take revenge, Tang Ru proposed. Yi Shu didn't agree. Right now, everyone else was at a roadblock in Line Canyon. The level 33 players were about to hit level 34 and there still wasn't any final result in Line Canyon. Records were still being set, but it would only be improved by a minuscule amount each time. Even though they currently held the record, the other guilds were very close. Lord Grimm's team was only faster than the second place, Tyrannical Ambition, by 2 seconds. The third place, Herb Garden, was only 4 seconds behind. Their record could be overtaken at any time. All the guilds, who were watching the rankings, knew this. What was Lord Grimm's group waiting for this time? Were the records going to keep on going back and forth like this? Or were they waiting for a guild to declare themselves as the winner and then completely crush them? This type of situation had given Tyrannical Ambition some time to win back some face. Players could at least see that they could compete with Lord Grimm. After last week's match, Boss Chen had been very happy. Today, when Yi Shu got up, he saw Chen Guo directly open up 3 stations for personal use. Her reasoning was that the internet cafe would never be full enough, that only 3 stations would be left. 3 stations? You're not planning on giving one to me, right? Yi Shu suspiciously asked. Don't worry. You can say you're happy, Chen Guo said. I don't need it. I stay at the front desk during the night. I also have to smoke during the day. Would you be able to stand me sitting next to you? But that's good too. I'll have a seat to sit in whenever I come over to teach you, Yi Shu said. Why don't you go die? Chen Guo glared and immediately called someone over to shut down the computer meant for Yi Shu.